But I thought we should probably kick off today because obviously there's news from breaking about this phone call tomorrow between Putin and Trump. And there's reporting that they may discuss Ukraine's power plants. So what can you tell us? What are you hearing from Russia about what they're likely to talk about?
We know that Putin is trying hard to separate different issues and to talk to them from America and our bilateral relations separately, not mixing that track to Ukraine and not connecting it in any way. So he doesn't want to have any kind of interdependence between those two topics. So he doesn't want any concessions or any gifts from Donald Trump to be received as quid pro quo for his decision to agree for the ceasefire in Ukraine. So it's like Ukraine separately, America separately. So I guess that's his desire to talk much more about bilateral issues and then to inform him about what's happening in Ukraine. And we've seen that a couple of times that he's got his own picture, his own point of view, and he provides American president with his information and with something he considers to be much more accurate picture.
So in other words, you're saying that the Ukraine is really just an excuse for Putin to talk to Trump about carving up the world.
That's true. Carving up the world is his ultimate goal. That's he wants to have that. I think the boss would love to have some kind of broader picture and to see themselves as the founders of the new world order. But yes, at the same time, they have to start with Ukraine because anyway, Trump promised to do something about it. He promised to finish this war in 24 hours, so he needs to have some kind of victory
Right.
that is being expected, and that's the problem. That's the
Right.
problem for Vladimir Putin because he doesn't want this war to end.
Right.
He doesn't want. So obviously, the reaction from Moscow to the latest round of negotiations, to the meeting in Jeddah in Saudi Arabia, was more than cold, and the comments from Putin's aide on international affairs, Yuri Ushakov, was very it was like a cold shower. He said that no, we don't need any preliminary agreements. We don't want anything temporary. We want eternal peace, which means like no ceasefire in foreseeable future. And then Putin said that yes, but there are preconditions, and definitely he's going to continue talking to Donald Trump about his preconditions. And it's really peculiar because according to Vladimir Putin, there is a huge number of Ukrainian soldiers surrounded by the Russians in the Kursk region of Russia, and that information is not confirmed by anyone else. Ukrainians deny it. Independent media do not confirm it. So, but that's the vision of Vladimir Putin, and he is going to try to provide Donald Trump with his alternative facts. He's the master of giving alternative version of reality.
Do you have any intel as to what went down with the meeting with Steve Witkoff and Putin? I mean, Steve Witkoff has been very tight-lipped about that. I mean, he went to see him at the weekend, right? Are you hearing anything about those conversations?
Well, it's all the same. I've heard that he he wants more dialogue with Trump. Witkoff is not his counterpart. So yes, he wants to use Putin is the specialist in talking to people. Well, I think we discussed that already. That he was creating this whole playbook how to deal with George W. Bush. And
Mhm.
he recreated himself. He reinvented his own imaginary psychology, and he created the fake story of his life to
Mhm.
present it to George W. Bush. And definitely he thinks that he knows how to talk to Donald Trump, how to convince him that they've been through a lot together. We heard this phrase from Donald Trump when he was yelling at Vladimir Zelensky in the Oval Office that Trump and Putin have been together through a lot. And that's that idea that they are two old friends. They are two old, I don't know, classmates. They suffered together from that liberal Washington D.C. elite that was trying to break them together. So I think that's the main Putin's asset. He is going to appeal to. He's not going to lecture Donald Trump about Russian history. He's going to lecture him about their own history. He's going to try to persuade him that they have been together for so long. They have been suffering together for so long and resisting all those bloody American liberals.
Right.
Democratic
Yes.
administration, and that is some emotional feeling that no one can, I guess, stir up in Donald Trump's mind.
So where does this leave Zelensky? I mean, what are you hearing from Ukraine? I mean, he said, "Fine, I accept. I'm in. I'll do whatever it takes." And
Mhm.
and so where does he have any leverage?
He's been talking a lot to Ukrainians, to people in Kiev, to Ukrainian journalists, to Ukrainian businessmen, to people in some way close to the circle. And there was a problem that, on the one hand, everyone was really outraged by that scene in the Oval Office, and the approval ratings of Zelensky have increased dramatically. But at the same time, that's true that Ukrainians really want to have a ceasefire. They really want to have a possibility to sleep at night, and that desire is unbearable. And like even though they are telling like I've been listening to Ukrainians saying that we know that we cannot believe Putin. We know that he doesn't want any kind of peace. He's going to betray us. He's going to cheat. That's just a pose. That's not for real. They know it, and they keep saying that, but at the same time, they desperately want just one cup, at least one calm night. They desperately want to have a rest. They desperately need that um, months, 30 days of peace. That is something, I see that. I see that the people who look really, iron. They look as if they are made of iron. Couple of weeks ago, they are real warriors.
Hmm.
But once there is a minor hope that there is going to be a little rest, just for 30 days, even if they know that it might be just an illusion, and Putin is going to try to yeah, the biggest fear is that after the ceasefire, Russians will play some kind of provocation and will break the ceasefire and will take all the all the empty positions of Ukrainian troops. So, and they know that, and you know how dangerous the potential ceasefire could be. But at the same time, emotionally, everyone is longing for short break
And how do
in Ukraine.
so I want to ask you obviously about how the Russian media is portraying Trump and America and all of this, but what about Ukraine? What is what's the discussion of the US? What's the perception of America like there?
I've heard. I was talking to a friend, and she had a very heartbreaking image of that. She said she was quoting someone else, but she said that that's how we all feel. She says when we were attacked by Russia, we were heartbroken. We were stepped right into our heart. But now, when we are betrayed by the Americans, it's like we don't have a soul any longer. We've been robbed of our soul.
Gosh,
So yeah, it's emotionally it's really hard. Emotionally, they feel like they are complete. Now they are alone. They before that. So no. They are talking about Europeans. That yes, Europeans probably are going to help them, but the symbol of the rest of the world, of the free world that was supporting them was the US. And they never believed that it would be any way different. And yes, after it happened, they cannot be sure um, that, they don't say that. No one told me that, for example, but I could tell them that okay, it's not 100% guaranteed that Germany, after the new government is finalized, is going to go with the same line as before. Yeah, it's highly likely, but we don't have 100% guarantee once America is out. So
I'm
yes, I
having
think.
sound up.
Sorry.
Yeah, if your audio is a little bad, but
Oh,
keep
really?
going.
I can. Maybe I should lose my headphones. Is it because of my headphones or
I'm not.
what do you
I
think?
can hear you. If readers want to text me and let me know if they can hear you any better.
Yeah, I can talk without.
Better without.
Can you hear me? No.
Much better.
I hope
Much
so. Yeah.
better, because what you're saying is so important. We don't want to lose it. Gosh, that's very powerful. And then what is going on Russian media,
Uh,
particularly about Trump and the United States?
you know, when we're talking about Russian media, we should say that we're speaking about Russian media in Russia, not about independent media, right? And Russian media, it's also very complex because there are few mouthpieces, few most important propagandist voices, and the rest pretends that nothing is happening. It's really, for that's the way how Russian society lives. Yeah, Russian society lives in denial. So there is no war. The life is beautiful. It's all about the enjoying life. So like most normal media prefer not prefer to pretend that it's not happening, that Kursk region of Russia was not taken by Ukrainians, that there are no drones. So yeah, it's and in most parts of Russia, it's okay. You can live and not notice any of that. But there are few most important propagandist TV shows there on the prime time on the state-owned TV channels, and they are remarkable. Um, And yes, it happened overnight. I don't remember if we already discussed that or not, but I was really surprised when I saw that they switched overnight, and they started praising Donald Trump in the way they never did. They never praised any foreign leader that way. And yes, it's really.
And what do they praise him for?
Sorry, just one one thing that impressed me the most. That's the installation that is created right in front of the American embassy in Moscow. For many years, there were like protest rallies of Russian nationalists, Russian patriots, pro-war activists who were protesting against American imperialism, against American support for Ukraine. And now there is an installation, letters in Russian, and it's written "We are together," and it's like in three colors: white, red, and blue, which are colors of Russian flag and American flag at the same time. So it's highly patriotic, and that's an amazing symbol of the unity. And I could have never imagined that.
And I want to ask you about this idea that I mean, I thought it was very interesting when you gave Christiane Amanpour the interview, and you sort of talked about how Putin's world view has shifted over the years, and that, I mean, is he presenting Trump as sort of the first politician in the West to have understood the wisdom of Putin's sort of philosophy of life, if you will?
Um, I think that it's important that for many years he has been sure that he knows how it works, and he projects his mindset to everyone else. He thinks that everyone is cynical, that everyone believes in nothing. He projects that there are no values and no beliefs. Um, Everyone is a hypocrite, and everyone, if like only those, everyone is corrupted except for those people who are not yet corrupted, who want to be billionaires but are losers and didn't have a chance. Otherwise, they are. If they only have a chance, I'm talking about politicians. He presumes that every politician is just the same, just like him.
And
So
was this always the case?
yeah, that's how he always thought from the beginning. That's the way how he mm, that's the way how he saw, like, that's how every Russian politician looked like when he was younger in the 90s. And I guess, you know, he worked in KGB. He came to that idea that actually it's all the same. There is Soviet propaganda and American propaganda, Soviet intelligence, American intelligence. There is no real difference. Okay,
Right.
Americans invaded Vietnam, Soviets invaded Afghanistan. It's all the same, and the sense of both systems and the mechanism both systems work is just the same. That was probably that was the cause of his initial split with the Western leaders. When, for example, he became friends with Tony Blair. Tony Blair was his first foreign friend, and he was expecting Tony Blair to be a loyal supporter and like to be his pal, to be his soulmate. And he was trying to help him a lot. He was he organized the first very important oil contract for British Petroleum in Russia, and he led British Petroleum to have one of the biggest private oil companies in Russia. And he saw that as the possibility to get Tony Blair, probably not to bribe Tony Blair, but to have...
He's a stakeholder.
To have that common understanding that they are together. They can find common grounds. They can speak common language. And he wanted something in return. And so he asked Tony Blair to extradite a Russian oligarch, Boris Berezovsky, the person who personally insulted Vladimir Putin and who was considered his personal
Nemesis.
enemy. And Tony Blair said, I cannot interfere. That's going to be the decision of the High Court. And High Court rejected Russian appeal, and that was a real humiliation of Vladimir Putin. But that did not persuade him. He thought, and he was 100% sure that it was not that Tony Blair could not interfere. He just didn't want to. He just didn't want to try really hard. He just did not consider him equal. He was not ready to sacrifice anything. He would have done that for Bush, for anyone else, if it was really important. But he was insulted that he was not treated as an equal. He was trying to do the same with George W. Bush. He had a concept that actually he can involve all the leaders of Western Europe and America to have them sitting on the boards of Russia's biggest companies. And he invited definitely, we know, former Chancellor Gerhard Schroeder to head them. Part of Gazprom that was in charge of building Nord Stream. Invited Romano Prodi, former head of European Commission, former Prime Minister of Italy, to head another project. And he invited former Minister of Finance of the US, Donald Evans, a close friend of George W. Bush, to be the board member of Rosneft, the biggest Russian oil company. And he had he had bigger plans. He was planning to corrupt all the foreign leaders, all the Western leaders, by paying them a lot of money, by having them on boards of Russian state-owned companies. And he presumed that he could be the part of the family, and they can be the same family. The same way it worked with Berlusconi, the same way it worked with Schroeder. So that was his concept, and that is his concept. And the way it didn't work, the way Donald Evans rejected his offer, and Romano Prodi and others rejected those offers, did not convince him. He didn't think that there are different politicians. There are people who are who don't want to be corrupt. No, he thought, okay, they are just they're not treating me as equal. They don't want to be part of my family because they have their own family. But it's still the same. It's still the same, and he was always thinking that it's only hypocrisy. When American politicians are talking about values and human rights, and especially politicians from the Democratic Party, he thought that it was all hypocrisy. He never believed. He was saying that openly. For him and for other Russian politicians, it was always clear that Republicans are more pragmatic than Democrats, and it's much easier. And it has been that way for many, many years, since Richard Nixon and Henry Kissinger were easier than Jimmy Carter and Zbigniew Brzezinski.
Yes. So I see. So that's
true.
And that's how you get to Putin seeing Trump as a soulmate, and why he sells the line about Zelensky being corrupt, because that is what he believes of all leaders.
The moment when when Donald Trump started believing that Hunter Biden serving on the board in Ukraine of the gas company named
Burisma.
is the smoking gun, is the proof that Joe Biden himself was corrupted. That's the same as mindset of Vladimir Putin. To invite somebody and to get him on the board and to pay him money means that you've got him in your system, in your family. And he saw, Putin saw that the same logic works for Biden, for Donald Trump. So I think they are soulmates. They have the same perception.
And what about the language barrier, Mikhail? So how, I mean, I saw obviously when Tucker Carlson interviewed Putin, he seemed at places to be able to speak English reasonably well. But they'll use translators on the call tomorrow.
I'm sure Putin doesn't speak English with Donald Trump. I really think that his English is bad, and I think he was talking to Tucker Carlson with the translator.
He was, but I thought there were
but
little fragments.
I don't think that
It's not good.
he ever uses that. Although, for example, we mentioned once Kirill Dmitriev, he's Jared Kushner, the closest friend of his daughter Katya. That person is fluent.
Right.
Mr. Dmitriev lived in America for 12 years. He studied in Stanford and Harvard. He worked for Goldman Sachs. So yeah, he knows. He shares the same language with Jared Kushner, with Donald Trump, and with Vladimir Putin. And I think that there are people who can bring them together.
And who, I mean, in your experience, who will be privy to the call in Russia with Putin? I mean, will Kirill Dmitriev be in the room, or how will it work?
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, is there a system? I mean, obviously here, often, there are readouts of calls. But I mean, are the Russians? I mean, I guess we'll wait to see. I mean, in Russia, are they all talking? I mean, in the American media, we're all discussing the fact that there is this call tomorrow. In Russia, do all the Russians know about it as well, or does the Kremlin keep it more closely guarded?
No, I think everyone is everyone who wants to learn the news. Everyone knows that. I saw that like a lot of people who are a lot of ordinary people. I'm not speaking about people in Kremlin or about
no, ordinary Russians.
Ordinary Russians are happy, and they are expecting the visa centers to be reopened. They start planning their trips.
Right.
They're waiting for their B1, B2 visas and traveling again to New York and California. They are happy with that. Everyone is really happy. We were I think we were discussing that the majority of Russians are very apathetic, and they prefer not to pay attention at the politics, and they get only the surface. They forgot about the war. They forgot about Ukraine. They know that it's rather uncomfortable right now, and it was much more comfortable back then, before the invasion. Before they don't call it invasion. They don't call it war. They call it there are different words in Russian, but normally it could be translated. I beg your pardon. This shit. Normally,
okay.
They use.
But what about the sanctions, and what about all the soldiers who died, the young men?
It's not discussed in Russian society. Probably, it's not discussed by many people. Probably because most soldiers are not from middle class and not from higher classes, and they are not from the mostly not from the big cities. It's a tragedy of smaller ethnicities. It's a tragedy for those peoples who live in distant parts of Russia, in Siberia, in autonomous republics like Buryatia or Kalmykia. It's not in Siberia; it's near Volga River. But there, with the number of casualties among the representatives of those nationalities, of native Siberians, that there is a tragedy, and the number of Yakuts or Buryats killed during the war. The war is enormous, but it's not visible from Moscow. It's almost not visible from St. Petersburg, Kazan, Nizhny Novgorod, and big cities.
Wow. And then can I just go back to what you said at the very beginning about Kursk?
Mm-hmm.
Because is what you're telling me different from what I'm reading in the media? You're telling me that Putin isn't, in fact, the Russians are not regaining.
No. I know.
Kursk.
No. I mean that it's not confirmed that, and I think that according to Putin, and Putin said that number of times, that there is a huge success for Russian army because they managed to surround the huge unit of Ukrainians, and those Ukrainians have to surrender. And that's his precondition. He's got several preconditions for the ceasefire. One of them is the surrender of the huge
Yeah.
military unit of Ukrainians, and the second one, which is important, he demands to stop all the exports of all the ammunitions and all the technologies and all the weapons to Ukraine during the ceasefire, which obviously Russia will
Yeah.
not stop.
Yes.
Will not stop the production of the weapons. So which makes it ideal for him to continue the war after the ceasefire, or just breaking the ceasefire. So he's going to enrich himself with the weapons, but Ukraine has to stop any kind of import.
So how does Trump get a win?
I really think that there is going to be the moment when Donald Trump has to be furious with Putin. And I guess that it should happen. I guess that, Putin is lying to him. And Putin is trying to use him. And there are only two potential scenarios. Either they pretend that there is a victory when it's not, or it should be revealed it should be clear to Donald Trump, to everyone else, and Donald Trump will face that challenge. He will have to admit that his bet on Vladimir Putin was wrong, that he was lying him from, and that he's non-negotiable. I think that's the only long-term scenario.
Wow. Wow. Well, I think we should reconvene after the phone call.
Yeah, let's do that.
I think we should reconvene. But I'm coming just back to the Kursk thing, so I understand, because I thought you said Putin was going to tell Trump something that is false, right? About
He always does.
And what's the false narrative that he's going to tell him about Kursk?
He probably, we heard he traveled to the region last week,
Right.
and he said that there is a huge amount of Ukrainians surrounded by Russians, which is not true, which is like some kind of fantasy. So and then the same legend was repeated by Donald Trump. But probably he's going to invent something else. He's changing his narrative all the time. But at least his visit to Kursk region was very symbolic, because that was the first time when he was wearing the military uniform since the beginning of the invasion, which shows that like he is in the mood to continue it. He doesn't want to change his suit. He loves the war.
And everything. So he thinks all these things through. I mean, that's intentional. I mean, he understands the messaging of what he's wearing. I mean, he's that sophisticated.
I guess. You know,
Wow.
he recently started calling the soldiers fighting in Ukraine "my guys." Definitely, that wasn't intentional. It's some kind of new wording. So yes, he's trying to show and to demonstrate that he is very personally involved, and he's investing a lot emotionally. And you know, he unlike majority of Russians, I would say unlike 99% of Russians who are trying to pretend that it's not happening, he's there. He's mentally in the war, and he's attached. So, and it's very important that now he looks like, you know, actually his outfit was ridiculed a lot by the independent media, because he didn't wear the uniform of a general, of the high ranking commander. He was wearing something that really reminds of the average guard of the shopping mall. 100% guards in Russian shopping malls wear hockey like this. So it looked really weird.
So,
But
like a security guard.
security guard, yes, exactly. But at the same time, he is playing the role of that ordinary man. You know, very,
Right.
very ordinary grandpa from the provinces would look like that.
Very interesting. All right, Mikhail, I think we should talk after the phone call.
Let's do that. Yeah.
Yes. I'm going to say thank you very, very
Thank you.
much
Thank
for
you.
now. And I'll see you tomorrow.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye.